everyone to Public Affairs. I am your host, Kaylee Aiken, and today I am here with Andrew and Marlie. So why don't you both introduce yourselves and tell the audience a little bit about yourselves and why you are here today?
Sure. So my name is Andrew Foltz. A little bit about me is I was adopted from the Philippines back when I was 2 years old, and then I'm also a WGM missionary.
And my name is Marlie Foltz, and I am a stay-at-home mom. I have 2 wonderful, cute kids at home, 3 and just over a year. Hi, kids. And then also I have a very deep passion for discipleship, ministry, and just building relationships with people. And I'm also a missionary for World Gospel Mission. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to have the well-rounded facts there.
Yes.
So how did you two meet?
Well,
Good question.
It is a good question. So we actually met online dating website, and I had 2 priorities in my online dating. My first priority to filter through was I wanted a Christian man. And then secondly, I filtered Asians. So through the filter of Christian Asian, Andrew was one of 2 people that popped up. And so the rest is history. So that's how we met there.
Honestly, the rest is history. From my perspective, I was on the dating website, I believe, a little bit longer than Marlie. But my paid prescription was coming to an end. And then I thought to myself, I was like, nothing fruitful came about. Honestly, didn't go on any dates, didn't really talk to anyone. And so, like I said, a week, it gave me a notification, your subscription's going to end in a week. And then I said to myself, I'll just let it expire, and I'll just go through the old-fashioned way of trying to go to a church and go to groups there and meet women there. But then, Marlie messaged me at some point, and the rest is history. Yeah.
Wow, that's an awesome story. So how did you two get called to be missionaries?
Well, a little bit about my background is that I was born in a missionary family. Both my parents were missionaries before I came into the family, before I was adopted. But zooming in a little bit, so I was adopted, came into the family, and then their second term, or round 2 for them, they got called to go back to the Philippines. And so at that point, we were a family of 4. And so, we went back to the Philippines for a few years. And ever since then, just kind of had a love for the missions field.
Yeah. And then for me, my parents, I grew up in a Christian home. My dad was a preacher, and my parents both did foster care, so we always had ministry as a big part of our life. Though it wasn't necessarily mission-based, it was definitely ministry-based, and so that was a big part of my life growing up. But despite growing up in a Christian home, when I went to college and I started to go out on my own into the world, I ended up actually falling away for quite a while. I actually ended up hanging out in college with the atheist group even, just because that's kind of the group I was hanging out with. I'd never claimed to be an atheist, but I did, claim being agnostic and just saying I don't know what's out there, but I think there's a God, but, I don't know who's out there. And so I did that for a little while and lived life the way I wanted to live it. And after probably almost a decade of that, I ended up coming back to Christ, but I still was trying to live life the way I wanted to live it and also live for Christ. And so I did that for another few years. And even though I was still making a lot of worldly decisions and that kind of thing, I was also continuing to read my Bible, have my quiet time, study the Word, and God continued to pull on my heart and started bringing me around to what He wanted me to do. And so there was a couple key things that happened at that time, one of which was just a lot of, one of my close friends, she had a heart-to-heart conversation with me about I was with a person at the time who was not a Christian in a relationship. And so she's like, you don't want to be unequally yoked. You want to, do what the Lord wants you to do. and you want to be with somebody who's also a Christian that shares that life goal with you. And so I took that to heart, and I started praying about it and seeking the Lord on it, and he started to show me that being unequally yoked wasn't just a request, it was a command. So when I was like, okay, well, this is what I need to do, I decided, all right, I'm going to move out of that situation that I was in and move into a camper by myself with my dog and just do whatever the Lord wanted me to. And once I knew I was going to live fully for Christ and do what he desired for me, that's when I really started feeling called to missions. I've always had an adventurous spirit and always really enjoyed traveling and that kind of thing. So missions just made the most sense, and it just felt like I was finally doing what God wanted me to do.
Yeah. And everybody has their own path, so it's nice to see both of your different sides and your guys' path along the way.
Yeah.
And then there's a little bit more too about like once I moved into the camper with my dog, then I started to, the dating website thing happened, and then I met Andrew, and then so.
And then just a little bit more backstory is, I kind of avoided the calling all my life. Like I said, I grew up in a mission-oriented family, but I kind of wanted to live the American dream. Have a house, a family, nice stable job, and all of that. And so even as a youth, I remember God telling me, like, this is going to be your path. And I've just been avoiding that path for a couple of decades now. But something big happened in just last year, 2023. We were at it's called Marriage for Life conference. It's a marriage conference, and I think it's like a week-long event. And so, Marlie and I had a great time there, and then we were on our way home. And for us, it's like a 2-hour drive, so had plenty of time to talk about anything and everything. And so one of the conversations that we had was very impactful in my life, and so Marlie just kind of simply said to me, she said that she said, I want to see you more on fire for God. I don't know what that looks like for our family, but whatever that looks like for our family, I will follow you. And so I took to heart a couple of statements from that conversation. The word more, I want to see you more on fire for God. The word more has really stuck with me this whole time. And I will follow you. Her statement, I will follow you. And I mean, honestly, if I were to take those two things seriously, I knew that our life would be completely different. We would have to give up the American dream. We'd have to solely rely on God and listen to what he has for our lives. And so, I took that conversation to heart. One of my favorite books I like to read is Jonah. And long story short, I just resonate with Jonah a lot. And so I just kept on rereading Jonah, trying to find a different answer in my life. But, spoiler alert, Jonah follows God's plan for him, and he goes back to Nineveh. And so what that looked like for us is that after rereading Jonah a lot, I knew that God wanted me to say yes to him, and he would tell us where to go. And so that's a little bit about our background about my background with how I got involved with the mission work.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you guys have talked about going to Japan, so tell us about Japan and why Japan.
Okay, so Japan is definitely a place that's always been on my heart. God has placed that in me from such a young age. I've just always been drawn to the culture, and even without even knowing, a lot of things that were Japanese or Japanese inspired just always drew my attention. And then as I've gotten older, it became less about the pop culture and the cool things I like about the country and more about the people and the way they behave and just how much they need Christ, because actually only 1% of Japanese people are Christians. So that means 99% of people in Japan are not Christians, and most of them don't even know anyone that will tell them about Jesus. So there's definitely a big need for Christ to be spread, his word to be spread in Japan.
And then for me, it's just, I feel like God has gifted me in some areas here in the States, and he wants me to take those gifts overseas. And so one the reasons why I feel called to go to Japan is for the youth. I think the youth culture over there needs to hear about the gospel and about Christ, and so I think God has called us there to Japan as well, just for the youth also.
That's where it all starts, is with the
Yeah.
youth.
Yep.
So what is the vision God has given you for your ministries in Japan?
Yeah, just to kind of re-emphasize, I'll just keep on saying it. Just the youth. I mean, I've always had a passion for the youth. I was part of the youth group growing up. I was the drummer for our youth band, and then I was a drummer for the youth band as a middle schooler, and then when I got older, when I was as an adult, I was able to be like the youth leader in church. And then I've always kind of just stuck with being like a youth leader at the churches that we've gone. So yeah, I think the youth is just a big part of our hearts, for sure.
Yeah, and then also discipleship is something that I mentioned a little bit earlier about being passionate about. We've done a lot of discipleship here locally in the church that we go to now, and in previous churches. We really just enjoy building those relationships and just continuing to kind of push and ask hard questions to people, kind of get them to think about some things that they probably wouldn't have the ability to think about otherwise. And so with discipleship, it kind of leads naturally also into church planting. So we see God leading us through that as well. Because once you start to build a couple of disciples, then before you know it, you have like a little house church. And so from that, then it continues to kind of just grow and change. And so we also see God really helping us to disciple and build more churches as we're there. So
Yeah.
I remember a story my dad has told us recently. So yeah, him and mom, they started a small group in the Philippines. He said that it just started out in the porch area, just 2 or 3 people there besides them. So a church of 5. And then he said, but yeah, it grew and grew and grew, and so we're excited. I think that's how most churches start, just small, and then it doesn't always have to get big. It doesn't always have to get big, but yeah, we're just excited to have it start small and see what goes on after that.
My grandpa's whole thing was starting a church small, and it should always be shared. So that's why he started broadcasting them.
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So it must be difficult having God's vision laid out for you, but at the same time trying to figure out the logistics. So what does it take to get you from stateside to Japan?
So we're actually looking for a team of approximately 126 people to help support us monthly. We definitely need a lot of monthly support to get us there and keep us there. But also, of course, prayer and that is important as well. But right now, our biggest need is that monthly support and just people at whatever God would lead them to. If they were just obedient in that would all just help us so much to get over there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some other needs I feel like is just like spreading the word. I feel like people can get connected to the Japanese ministry, even if it's not on a financial basis. But like if God leads you just to like share, like, hey, I know of a family, they're called the Foltzes. They're going to Japan. Maybe God's calling you to get involved in some way. But yeah, just spreading the word, I feel like is one huge way that people can still be part of the ministry.
Absolutely. Any advice you would say to someone that may be feeling like God is calling them to missions?
Yeah, I briefly mentioned the book of Jonah, and just it's going to sound like a weird phrase, but yeah, don't be a Jonah. And so, but what I mean by that is like, if you know the book of Jonah, the first 2, so there's 3 points that stick out to me with the book of Jonah. Jonah, God had a calling on Jonah's life, and Jonah knew exactly what that calling was. God wasn't being vague, he wasn't being confusing, he was just very specific. But then point number 2 is like Jonah kept on running, or Jonah ran away from his calling. Scripture says he immediately ran away. But Jonah came back around and said yes to God, and he went to Nineveh. And so, yeah, when I say don't be a Jonah, it's like, don't be what I was doing, for the past 20 years. Like, don't hear God's calling and then just run away and stuff. And so, honestly, my advice to myself and to anyone is just like, don't run away. If God's calling you to do anything, pray for someone, be part of some other kind of ministry, whatever God's calling you on your life, just go for it.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add?
Like you said, to pray. I think prayer has been a big part of this process for us, especially once we were, deciding to, like, what organization to go through and that kind of thing. Prayer has helped immensely to navigate those fine lines of obedience and trying to figure out which way is the best way and which way is the best path to go down. And so praying, I think, is also super helpful. And then trusting God to provide, even if it looks like an impossible task. If you're feeling called to missions and God is calling you in that or any other ministry, then he will provide a way for it to happen. So, yeah.
So when we are obedient, have you ever noticed God showing up in your life?
I have a quick little story. So lately, I've been trying to downsize. I know God's going to send us and so I'm like, I need to start getting rid of some things. I don't want to take all of this with me. And so I was trying to sell, I did sell a Cricut, like a craft machine, those things that cut the paper and everything. I sold one of those online, and I met the girl in person, and I was like, "Are you a Christian?" And she was like, "Yeah, I am." I said, "Will you please take a prayer card and just, will you pray for me and my husband as we're trying to do this missions journey and stuff?" She's like, "Yeah, sure." And so she took the prayer card, and then on the way home, I noticed my tire gauge was low, and I was like, "Oh no, like my tires are low." I don't know how long this has been going on. Maybe I didn't notice it on the way because I was like kind of in a hurry to beat her. So I was like, I hope we're okay. So I was like driving, and there's a sheriff's office like right next to me, and I was like, "Oh, a sheriff's office, maybe they can help." So I stopped and pulled in there, and I went in, and I was like, "Hello, my tire is low." And so they came, they're like, "Oh, I'll come around." He had a motorcycle. It's like, "I'll come around and I'll check your tire for you," because I didn't even have a tire gauge with me, so I didn't even know which one it was or how low it was or anything. So he came around and he checked my tire, and he was telling me like, "Oh, you're probably good to go home." And I was like, "Okay, well, thank you so much for helping me." And then he's like, "Well, have a blessed day." And I was like, "Okay, you too." And so I like turned on the car, and the window was rolled up, and I was like about to leave. I was like, I wonder if he's a Christian. And it's kind of like the Holy Spirit prompting me, like, you should ask him if he's a Christian. I was like, okay. So I rolled down my window and said, "Are you a Christian by chance?" And he's like, "Actually, young lady, if you'll give me like 3 minutes of your time, I'll tell you my testimony." And I was like, okay. So he told me his testimony about how God basically saved his life through a motorcycle accident, and he found out he had cancer due to that accident, and they were able to remove it. And so it was just a really good interaction. Then I was able to give him another prayer card. So we got 2 prayer partners that day just for me being obedient with selling my stuff and then stopping and asking the guy if he was a Christian that was helping me. And so it was, God just shows up in the littlest ways, and we just have to show gratitude and be thankful for those tiny moments where he's there.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything you might want to add to that?
Oh man, honestly, it's just every day. I just feel like God just shows up. We talked a little bit about what it takes to get us over to Japan, and so yeah, it may seem like a big task for us humans, but how to explain what God has been doing? God has just been showing up. I mean, I've gotten in touch with friends I haven't seen in 15 years. We're getting in touch with my parents' friends that have been part of our lives since, before my brother and I and sister were part of the family. And so it's just been exciting just to see a lot of people being like, "Oh my goodness, like I knew God had a plan for you. We didn't know this was it, to be missionaries." And so God has just been showing me, I guess he's just been showing me little nuggets throughout my whole life. Like, "Hey, Andrew, like this is your path." As a 15-year-old, I'm letting you know this is your path. But yeah, I've just been ignoring, but I'm starting to just listen to God. Marlie has been teaching me, like, just, spend some time with God. As Americans, we live busy lives, and, we always want to go. But Marlie has been very helpful just to be like, just take some time,
Yeah.
take some time and see what God is telling you. And so, yeah, it's just been really exciting just to see God showing up through family and friends.
Yeah, absolutely. So you will be leaving family and friends to go to Japan. Are you wanting to learn Japanese? Sorry, if so, have you started learning, or is there a school in Japan that you want to be attending? Like, your lifestyles are going to be changing, so what have you guys taken to prepare for that?
Well, for me, I've been slowly trying to learn Japanese, like even just a couple of days ago. So for me, in the car, there's a podcast that I found, and it's very, it's like a 101 kind of podcast. It breaks down Japanese very simply and stuff like that. And so I've been trying to learn through audio a little bit of like the language and stuff. And so some other team members, so we are part of a team that will be in Japan. And so one of our teammates, he suggested a couple books to us. And so, yeah, I've been trying to look into visual things to kind of help me just get immersed in Japanese. But yeah, we will be also part of a school as well.
We'll have a language school when we go to Japan. It's one that our organization's worked with for many years. So they teach you Japanese, but they also teach you a lot of like the Christianese, if that makes any sense, like all the Christian words that you need to know to kind of communicate things. Because even here in the States, people go to church and they're like, well, I don't know what a lot of these words are if they didn't grow up in the church, you know. So they'll teach us a lot of that there too. So it'll be helpful for us to learn. And then personally, I've been on Duolingo almost a whole year now on my streak, which is crazy. But I've been learning the alphabet. So that Japanese has 2 alphabets. I think it's somewhere between 90 and 100 characters in those alphabets. But then they also have the Chinese alphabet that they use, and I think there's probably 1,000 common ones, but then there's like 8,000 total that they do use. But so I'm not working on those ones yet. I'm just working on the actual like alphabet part because it's a little bit easier to kind of like read stuff, and sometimes they'll have the Japanese alphabet above like the Chinese character. So I'm hoping if I can learn that, because some of the words like toilet, I think is like toilet or something, or cake is like keiki. So those words will be really easy to read in Japanese. I'll be like, I know that English word. So I'm hoping that'll help take down some of those hard ones that are going to be a little bit of a transition.
Yes.
I didn't realize it was that difficult. I'm not going to lie to you. But at least you guys have been working on it, because this will be your lifestyle for a while.
Yes, it will.
So I imagine it takes a village to support a ministry overseas. So how has it been raising support for the Japanese ministry?
It's been a really good experience. Andrew touched on it a little bit already, but just being intentional with relationships. I'm really good. I'm always happy to talk to people that I've known in the past, but I'm not the best about reaching out and saying like, hey, how are you? How are things going? And just, making that effort. And so building partnerships has really brought me back into making that a priority in my life. And it's been really, really nice to reconnect with people. And it's just been, I've really enjoyed also like the discipleship that we've been able to give to others. They've definitely helped us in a lot of ways too, and it's been preparing us for what ministry we're going to have over there as well. Yeah. So that's been positive.
Yeah, I would just echo what Marlie said. It's just like discipleship. Just naturally, it's just been a part of our characteristics that God has in place and instilled in us. And so just getting to know people, new people, brand new. I like to ask just random deep questions just to kind of really get to know people, not just like, hey, how are you? I like to ask like, what's your favorite color? Like, why do you think this way and stuff? And so, yeah, just discipleship. It's been really awesome just to kind of see people's like lights click on and be like, hey, like, maybe we would like to get involved in mission work in some form or another. So, yeah, it's been an awesome process.
Yeah. So we appreciate you two for sharing your hearts for the mission work and God's desire to send you guys to Japan. So please remind the audience on how they can get involved and if God is leading them towards Japanese ministry.
Okay. So first of all, obviously, everybody can pray. So if you are able to just say, even if it's just one time, say a quick prayer for us. But if you would like to pray more regularly, that would be greatly appreciated as well. And then monthly support. We do need a lot of monthly supporters still. That's something we really are looking for and seeking at this time. So if you feel called at all to support us monthly, please pray about it and let the Lord lead you on the amount if that's something you're able to do. And then also churches and small groups. So on I think you guys are going to have the URL. On the URL, there's a way to message us if you have a church somewhere, honestly, in the state or the next state over. We're willing to travel. We want to talk to lots of churches and small groups and just connect with more people as we go about this journey.
And then I would just encourage anyone listening is just like, again, you don't have to help financially if God's not calling you to help financially, but just spreading the word. Literally, you can be the missing link or like the bridge between a lot of people. If you literally just say like, I know a family that God may be calling you to get in touch with, and then just telling them our information, either sending them to our WGM website or if you get our phone numbers or email address. But yeah, literally another way to be a huge help is just to spread the word and just be bold. God, that means that God's going to tell you like, hey, you're going to have to talk about your faith. You're going to have to kind of share with people that didn't know that you're a Christian, if that makes sense. And so yeah, if God's saying like, hey, like, let so-and-so tell so-and-so about the Japanese ministry, that means that you're going to have to be bold for God. And so yeah, that would be a huge help if you just spread the word.
Absolutely. So as we're getting ready to wrap this interview, is there anything you'd like to add that we may have missed, or a closing statement?
I guess just really continue to pray for us. It's been a journey so far, and it's been good, but there's definitely been some spiritual warfare as well. So any prayers that we can get will help take that down and will help, just keep the enemy at bay. So yeah, continue praying for us.
And then I would just add, if you just want to talk to us, we are social butterflies. I mean, even if we've never met before, if you just want to reach out to us and just say hi, I want a little bit more information about your ministry, or do you have any information about what your organization does for other ministries, or if you just want to say hi, hello,
yeah, that's fine too.
Yeah, just expect I will reach back out to you less than 24 hours and start a whole conversation with you. So again, we are just social butterflies. We just love to get to know new people, reconnect with old friends, stay connected to current family and friends and stuff like that. So yeah, just be ready for my emails and stuff. They'll be long and in depth.
Well, thank you both for coming out today. I appreciate it. I learned about what you guys are going to do, and I hope the audience learned a lot as well and want to help you guys out. And as always, you're watching Public Affairs, and I am your host, Kaylee Aiken. Thank you.